If you want to buy the brand new M1 iPad Pro, you are not alone. Of course, I will be ordering one, well, two actually, an 11-inch and a 12.9-inch so that we can review and compare them. But if you're not a tech reviewer, or if you don't have an unlimited budget, you might want to hold off, or at least watch through this video to make sure that you're making an informed decision, because there are multiple downsides with these new ones that Apple didn't mention in their announcement video, as well as a few limitations that you have to know about, which I'll be going through to help you make an informed choice before upgrading your iPad or buying an iPad Pro for the first time. Apple blew up the internet when they announced this new iPad Pro, and Vadim and I literally jumped in our seats when we saw their video where a spy-looking guy broke into a building and opened up an M1 Mac and proceeded to pull out that coveted chip that has been turning the computer and especially the laptop industry upside down in the last 6 months, and then zoomed into another room and transplanted that M1 into another motherboard. We had no idea what this new machine could be until they closed the top, and it turned out to be the new iPad Pro with the M1, and Vadim and I just gasped in disbelief. Now this means a lot for the iPad Pro's future, and even though we talked about this possibility a while ago, we ended up agreeing that there's no way that Apple would do that, but obviously we were wrong. And even though I was excited for it, I have to say that after a few days and some more research, it made me a bit bummed as well. I'll tell you guys why in just a bit. After Apple's event, I made a video covering 9 things that they didn't mention, but unfortunately I had to cut out 2 of those things that related directly to the iPad Pro because they ended up changing the listing on their website, and I didn't want to put out false info. But now that it's been a few days, these issues have now been confirmed, so I'm gonna finally share them with you along with a few others. If you've been following our channel, which by the way, help us out and hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet, which 80% of you guys haven't, since we're really trying to hit that 1 million subscriber mark by the end of the year, and that would mean the world to us. You would know that we are huge fans of the iPad, even as a MacBook replacement ever since Apple released iPadOS, and especially once they released the Magic Keyboard. This created a lightweight, portable 2-in-1 machine that is crazy powerful and completely silent, and which could do the work that most people need from an Ultrabook, and because of that, we highly suggested buying an iPad Pro and a Magic Keyboard instead of a MacBook, but things have changed lately, and it's no longer such an easy suggestion, especially with the changes that Apple made just 6 months ago and with the update of this new iPad Pro. Even though the upcoming M1 iPad Pro is going to be a beast, here are the issues that I have with buying one in 2021. The first problem has just been confirmed by Apple, and it's going to be a major one for those of you that have a Magic Keyboard, and that is because if you already dropped $350 on one for your 12.9-inch iPad and you want to upgrade to the new one with the mind-blowing 1600 nit mini LED display and the M1 chip, your Magic Keyboard will not work with this new iPad. This is the first thing that I had to cut out of my previous video, because at first Apple listed that this new keyboard only worked with this new iPad. But when I was editing that video, they updated their website and they said that this new keyboard, which you can't even order yet, will in fact work with the previous generations, which is weird for Apple to do that, so I thought it could have just been a mistake. But no, it is confirmed. If you have a $350 Magic Keyboard for your larger iPad, Apple says that it will not work with the new mini LED iPad, so you will have to spend another $350 to get one. Now, many people have said it's probably because the new mini LED iPad is thicker and because the tolerances are so small that the hinge will not work properly. Personally, this still sounds weird to me since it's not that much thicker, and hopefully you can still use it. It might just not be 100% perfect fit, but who knows, there could be a few other design differences. For example, maybe the rear camera bump could be slightly different and then the cutouts won't properly work, which has happened before, or possibly something else could be slightly different, but we will have to see once we get this new iPad in. But this is definitely a bummer since Apple also raised the base price of the 12.9-inch iPad by $100 this year, up to $1,100, which bumps up to $1,450 if you have to buy a new keyboard as well. Now the next issue applies to both sized iPads, and it's the only one in this video that I briefly mentioned at the end of my last one, and that is the cellular model. Apple has been doing a killer job raising the prices on us as they've slowly been making the iPad Pro more pro. For example, the first keyboard wasn't already pricey $179, but once they finally listened to reviewers and added a trackpad to make it a laptop replacement, they didn't just replace the first keyboard, but instead they almost doubled the price to $300 since they knew that it was going to steal sales from their MacBooks. And with that, previously they were charging $129 more if you wanted cellular on your iPad Pro, but then with the later model, they just bumped that up to $150 if you wanted LTE, even though it still cost $129 for the regular iPads. In fact, it still costs that amount right now with the iPad Air. Well, with the M1 iPad Pro, it now costs $200 if you want to have that cellular connectivity. Now, I totally understand that this chip is now a 5G capable modem, but that 5G modem is included in their $700 iPhone 12 mini as well, and 5G is not even available in many places yet. Now, yes, 5G is going to be future-proof and you're going to keep your iPad for a while, but it just sucks to have to drop $200 more just for cellular on an iPad when it's $129 on the iPad Air, and it will definitely suck if Apple updates the iPad Air to 5G as well, and they're still gonna charge $129 for it, or even say $150 when it is $200 on the Pro model just because they know that they can get away with it. The next issue makes me even more upset than the upcharging on the new cellular models, and that is the fact that they are charging $200 more for some of their storage options than they did before. Now, if you're looking at the base storage options, you won't notice any difference. The 11-inch 128 gigs still costs $799, and it still costs another $100 to go up to 256 gig, which of course is expensive for just another 128 gig, but hey, that is Apple for you. And if you want 512 gigs of storage, then that would cost another $200, which costs $1,100 total, or $1,400 if you want the larger, brighter display, before of course adding on the keyboard or the Apple Pencil. So what about if you want more than 512 gigs of storage for your iPad Pro? Well, your 11-inch goes from $1,100 all the way up to $1,500, so that is a $400 bump in price. With the 2020 iPad Pro, that 1TB option used to cost $200 more than 512 gigabytes, which was actually a reasonable price for an extra 512 gigabytes of storage, counting the fact that the first 128 gig bump costs you a whole $100. And of course, Apple did add the new 2TB option this year, so you can spend up to $2,100 for an 11-inch if you want cellular, or $2,400 for the maxed out 12.9-inch iPad. Now, there is a reason for this, which they don't explain on their website, and that is thanks to the new M1 chip and its capabilities. This is the first time ever that the iPad can support up to 16 gigabytes of RAM on an iPad, which to be honest, you do not need, and Apple is making the most out of it. If you're ordering a base model with up to 512 gigabytes of storage, you will get 8 gigabytes of RAM, which is more than plenty for every app that is currently out there, and the price is the same as it was before, but as soon as you hit that 1TB capacity, you end up getting 16 gigabytes of RAM along with the extra storage. So Apple is no longer charging you $200 for the upgrade, but now they're charging you $400, effectively forcing you to pay for the extra RAM even if you don't need it, which right now no one really does because none of the iPad apps are designed to use that much. They're all designed to use a very little amount of RAM. And this isn't the first time that Apple gave you more RAM when you got extra storage. The first 11-inch iPad Pro came with 4 gigabytes of RAM, but if you bought a 1TB option, Apple actually gave you 50% more RAM and they didn't charge you any extra for it. And if you buy any other product with an M1 chip, you can upgrade the SSD all the way up to 2 terabytes as well, but Apple doesn't force you to go with 16 gigabytes of RAM. So if you do need more storage, but you don't need the extra RAM, you don't have to buy it. And that's on a system which runs macOS and can actually make good use of that extra RAM, as we have shown in our videos. So why in the world would Apple force people to pay an extra $200 for 8 gigabytes of additional RAM and not even tell people that they are paying for it or that they're getting it, and on a machine that can't actually make use of that RAM? The M1 is fully customizable on each one of their M1 products, and it's an all-in-one chip, so why not let us choose how much RAM we need on this Pro product like we can with every other system? It makes no sense to me other than Apple forcing people to pay more money if they know that people that are spending this much on an iPad are likely not gonna go out and be giving Apple another few grand for a MacBook as well. Now, yes, I am glad that this new iPad Pro is getting the M1, which is insanely powerful, and that is so exciting. But when is the last time that you complained that your iPad Pro is too slow? Even the 2018 model. Honestly, that has never happened to me, and the only reason that I upgraded my 2018 up to the 2020 model is because of this YouTube channel just needing to have that product to make videos on it. If not, I would still be super happy with it. And finally, we have one more big change. When we were really recommending iPad Pros with the Magic Keyboards as MacBook replacements, Apple is selling Macs with hot, loud, and slow Intel CPUs, but in the last 6 months, we got the best value Apple machine ever, the M1 MacBook Air, that's also totally silent with insane battery life and great performance, and 256 gigabytes of really fast SSD for $999. And actually now you can get one for $899 if you guys use the link in the video description. And guess what? It can run iPhone and iPad apps as well since it's running that ARM CPU. An 11-inch iPad Pro with 256 gig of storage and the Magic Keyboard will cost you $1,200, or if you do need that larger size, it's gonna cost you $1,550. And guess what? With all that M1 power, it doesn't work the other way around like the Mac does. It will not run your Mac apps. I personally think that if Apple is going to charge us this much for their iPads and they won't even give us the option to choose our own RAM, they should allow us to run macOS on these expensive machines, or at least run Mac apps on the iPad, since we know that the M1 chips are fully capable of running these programs and they run them way better than the previous Intel MacBooks did. And at this point, before we get more Pro software for the iPad, we're just getting more power when we can't actually make use of it. While at the same time, if you don't need the Apple Pencil support or the ultra bright display of the larger model, a $900 MacBook Air is gonna be way more capable of a machine than this new hyper-powered iPad for those of you guys that are trying to decide between the two. And unless you have the money to burn, you might want to just stick with your older iPad Pro that will likely do everything you need, or at least everything that the software will allow you to do. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. Are you happy with Apple's new charges for this new machine and Apple limiting you at the same time? Go ahead and click that circle above if you guys want to subscribe and help us reach our goal of 1 million subscribers by the end of the year, and check out one of those great videos over there. This has been Max, and I will see you in the next video.